Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here. We're glad you made it to the podcast. Brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software. Propane, energy for everyone. And First Student, the largest provider of student transportation in North America. I've got Mr. Ryan Gray with me, editorial extraordinaire. Ryan, welcome.
Hello, Tony. Hello, Nation. Great to be back.
That's right. We got lots of top headlines today. We got some interviews coming up. We got lots to get to. We got a great interview. Miss Taylor Ekbatani is going to be speaking with Dr. Martha Salazar-Zamora, also known as Dr. Z, and also Dr. Stephen Gutierrez and Sandy Dillman from Tomball Independent School District in Texas. And Dr. Z was a finalist at the AASA conference, Superintendent of the Year. We saw her there. She was in a bright pink. She was such a lovely lady, Ryan. I got to meet her. So really great times.
Awesome. Yes. We have articles on all the finalists on stnonline.com. And of course, coming up in just a couple of weeks with our April issue, where it's not a secret who the winner is, but we're going to have Dr. Joe Gothard of St. Paul Public Schools in Minnesota, soon to be heading over to Madison, Wisconsin, but he actually won, so he's going to be gracing the cover along with Claire Miller of First Student.
Yeah, the AASA event when Taylor and I went down to San Diego was a great event. Man, there was a lot of superintendents down there, and I know school buses were a major topic around electrification when we were there, and it was great to see the community come together and support that award. And superintendents got a lot on their plate, Ryan. No doubt, whenever we look at it, there's a lot of challenges. Transportation department's got a lot on their plate too, so we have a lot happening. And why don't you bring us some of the top headlines going on in the industry?
Absolutely. So one of the those big conversations around school buses, of course, continue to be electric school buses. And as we've talked a number of times, New York State is really leading the way, especially in terms of being aggressive with its mandates for electric school buses. There's a $500 million program, the New York School Bus Incentive Program, run by NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. There's a government agency there that acts a little bit like Air Resources Board does here in California on a smaller scale, but still has a lot to do with clean environment and funding of initiatives such as electric school buses. So this $500 million, as we've reported, is part of a $4.2 billion Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act that the voters passed back in 2022. It's really been a major initiative for Governor Kathy Hochul. This $500 million, though, is really a drop in the bucket when you're looking at 45,000 school buses in the state. I was doing some research, and according to the World Resources Institute's electric school bus initiative, there's about, say, Tony, 55 to 60 electric school buses either in operation or soon to be. They're on order and soon to be in operation there in New York State. About 485, 490 electric school buses dedicated to the state. So those are maybe in the pipeline somewhere, maybe not on the road. But again, when you're looking at 45,000 school buses, that's a little over 1%. So I think that the big question is, how the heck are they, along with everybody else, going to get there, get to that goal? Now, with that mandate, as we've reported previously, 2027 is the date when school districts and school bus contractors need to be purchasing electric with their new purchases. 2035 is when fleets need to be ostensibly 100%, although there's some wiggle room in there. There's some postponements that school districts can apply for if they demonstrate hardships. But the first 100 million of this 500 million was announced late last year. School districts are applying for it. Then, a matter of days after, one of the state senators who's fighting this bill or this law, he's trying to repeal it, he got an amendment. He was trying to get an amendment into another school bus legislation, and that was denied. And literally like the next day, Governor Hochul announced another bucket of money that's coming available for purchasing and installing electric chargers and related infrastructure. So school districts in the state will be able to get up to $65,000 per electric bus. That again is up to. They're going to receive at least $25,000 on a first come first served basis for the hardware, behind the meter electrical upgrades, installation costs, and battery storage. Then they can get an additional $10,000 per bus if they're serving a high needs disadvantaged community. And another $30,000 if they obtain a fleet electrification plan. And hearing a lot more about those fleet electrification plans, just a couple of weeks ago, the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, along with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, announced a similar clean school bus plan that basically provides consultation services for these types of electrification plans. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that in Indy and in Reno. I mentioned that last week, I believe, but definitely seeing a lot more conversation around the setup necessary. And we've talked ad nauseum, Tony, about all of the work that needs to be done with the utilities, with construction companies, with stakeholders, your dealers, your OEMs, your fuel or energy providers, to really make sure that these projects get off the ground to begin with. We have all this clean school bus program money flowing. We just wrapped up the year 2 rebate or the competitive grant from last year. Those awards were announced. This latest rebate should be coming out. Word should be coming out here in the next month or two. But money is flowing. School districts are buying these buses, but again, they're running into the challenges of setting up that infrastructure when it can be 12, 18, even 24 months lead time that these utilities can get them the power they need. So a lot of discussion, a lot of work going on now to try to get everybody the information that they need and start kind of checking off the ducks in a row. Seems a little bit, again, cart before the horse or horse before the cart or whatever you want to say in terms of getting all these buses out there and not having this infrastructure. But just kind of the same story, Tony, just seeing more and more folks and government agencies trying to throw money at this thing so that school districts can get the resources that they need.
Yeah, it's a really ambitious target. I mean, we talked about this when they dropped that number. We were like, not sure they're going to be able to get there. What's the manufacturing capacity? And obviously, we've seen really what's gone on around the nation. And it becomes this really, unrealistic mark. And I know we had a few of the New York State contractors out at STN Expo last year, and they spoke to this a little bit as well, right? We had the guys from Suffolk Transportation out there, Tommy Smith and Tino Gustafson from Suffolk. And, they're in Long Island. And, we asked the question, how do you guys think this is a realistic goal? And I said, they really took the position of, hey, we're going to do our best to meet the goal that the state has put out, but there are limitations. And they're still obviously, they were out in front. They were one of the pioneers, right? They won one of our Green Fleet Awards at the Green Bus Summit last year at STN Expo in Reno because they were champions of green energy. So they were on the cutting edge. But how many other private fleet operators or districts haven't even dipped their toe in the water on this? And the fact that the state has so many school buses, it's the most school buses in the United States, right? Like, this is, if you're going to start, maybe you start small. No, you started with the absolute largest behemoth of a project. And frankly, I don't know if they're going to be able to throw enough money at it, right? It's going to take a long time to be able to get over the hump.
And exactly. And that's not even talking about the manufacturing. So in looking at that 45,000 number and the number of electric school buses they have so far, which is, a few dozen, basically, between now, here we are, essentially middle of March, let's say 2024, we're looking at January 1st of 2035. And again, I mentioned that could be some postponements that some school districts, especially those in rural areas, could get up to 2 years. But you're essentially looking at a decade, right? Give or take some months, that school districts have to completely turn over their fleet. And that the OEMs, and we've been talking about this too, where they are saying, oh, we're going to be ramping up our production. And several school bus manufacturers have opened up dedicated electric plants recently. But when you're looking at the, about 35,000, 40,000 on a good year, maybe a little higher than that in production, that basically needs to be taken over completely by electric. Looking at a state like New York, they don't have a replacement plan there. But I know that the contractors, especially like you look at someplace in like New York City, every 5 or 10 years or so, they need to be flipping over their fleets. That's part of the contract. But for all the school districts, they don't have that. And the school districts still need to be footing the bills that have those contractors, right? That's going to get very expensive. And I know that, speaking of the contractors, that's a lot of the anxiety that they have is someone's got to shoulder those costs. And we're not seeing the electric school buses come down in price like we thought it would. Supply chain played a big role in that, COVID-19. But I remember when we had Jim Harris out at STN Expo Reno, what was it, about 5 years ago or so, 4 years ago, and he was talking about this precipitous drop in the cost of batteries that's going to bring electric vehicles down. We haven't seen that, and where we have seen that on the passenger side, it's really been biting the OEMs. I mean, Tesla, their revenue is down, their stock's down. I saw a headline recently where they fell off of one of the lists of the biggest revenue companies on the stock market. So, a lot of these price cuts have been reflective of trying to get consumers to buy them, because as we talked about last week, we've seen a slowdown across the entire EV spectrum, passenger vehicles on up. And, when you're looking at a state like New York that probably needs somewhere around 4,000 electric school buses a year starting today, to get to where they need to be in 2035, that's a tall order, especially as the rest of the nation is really pushing back. And we have folks doubling down on diesel. And despite what's going on right now with the EPA greenhouse gas emission rules, what the California Air Resources Board is doing. So we're really coming to a crossroads here, I think, sooner rather than later, of how we proceed with this electric. And you were mentioning last week, Tony, that despite a lot of the big manufacturers putting millions, if not billions of dollars of R&D into zero emissions, that we're seeing companies press the pause button on this stuff. So again, a lot needing to shake out on this to make all the numbers work.
All right, Ryan, before we get to some more headlines, we're going to take a quick break. Do you remember a time when you could just cherry pick the best solution to run your school transportation operation? The best routing software may be one company. The best parent app could be another company. Those days are over. TransFinder said the old way of doing business doesn't work for today's busy and burdened school transportation departments. They need one partner, one solution. TransFinder has embraced this approach for years now, building award-winning solutions like Route Finder Plus, the driver app Wayfinder, parent app Stop Finder, and inventory management solution Service Finder. They also have field trip management solutions Trip Finder and Viewfinder, which provide critical routing information to other stakeholders in the district. Add to this TransFinder's award-winning hardware and industry's best support and service. You have the ingredients that make up one partner, one solution. It's not just a slogan. It's TransFinder's way of doing business. Learn more by emailing getplus@transfinder.com or calling 800-373-3609. That's 800-373-3609. Remember, one partner, one solution. All right, we're back. Ryan, what else is going on? School bus drivers under attack? What is going on? A rash of violence lately?
Oh boy. Well, just in the last couple weeks, we've really been noticing an uptick in the number of reports nationwide of school bus drivers being arrested. And, half dozen or more of those are DUIs, which just boggles my mind that school bus drivers are out there driving drunk. And it just goes to show that certainly there's bad apples in every bunch, and we've talked about that. But it makes you wonder, okay, if these are the ones that are getting caught, which ones aren't getting caught? And I was talking to a school bus trainer the other day and was mentioning some stories that he's seen and heard of school bus drivers that have bottles of Gatorade half full with vodka in it and fruit juice. This is, I think these things happen, more rarely, but certainly they shouldn't be happening at all. And it gives the industry a black eye when these things happen. Now, I was talking with Dick Fisher. Of course, many of you know him out there. Really, the father of the Yellow School Bus National Safety Month, and he tracks everything that goes on with student transportation and school buses online. So he's just pouring through the headlines each and every day, and he puts together this great newsletter about 5 times a week. And so he tracks the number of school bus drivers that he reads about, that he finds online, who are arrested for DUIs or driving under the influence of something. And he said last year there were 36 of these. So far this year, there's 20. Now, we know that there's still a few more months of school. Hopefully that trend does not continue. We want to stay below that 36. And it harkens back to, there was this CBS News report several years ago that really drew the ire of the industry, Tony, where it was talking about convicted felons who are driving school buses and, pedophiles and folks that are getting lost in the system or evading detection. And they touched upon DUIs. And the report said that on average, a school bus driver a week nationwide is being arrested for a DUI. And on one hand, you think, well, compared to whatever it is, 400 to 500,000 school bus drivers, that's a drop in the bucket. But also, too, those kind of headlines sensationalize, and they get the general public out there fearful of putting their kids on the school bus. And that's what we don't need. So certainly, we do not like bringing these articles to light, but they need to be discussed. It needs to be known. I think that every student transport out there, if they're honest, will have at least one story where they've dealt with a school bus driver who's been intoxicated. And it brings to the forefront, again, the importance of reasonable suspicion training. All dispatchers, Dick Fisher was telling me, should be talking to each bus driver as they come on the clock. That is part of the process of being able to detect if something isn't right with one of the drivers. Can they smell something? Do they see something? And if they have any reasonable doubt, they need to take that driver aside and they need to get management involved and get that driver tested. We can't let that driver get out to the school bus. So definitely, hoping to see fewer of these headlines going forward. Also, too, in addition to some of the DUIs, saw a driver who was arrested in Long Island for apparently obstructing a police investigation. So he was involved in a crash and there were students on board. They were trying to evaluate the children medically. And he evidently, allegedly started an altercation with the police for whatever reason. So this driver, 64-year-old Stephen Edwards, he is charged with 5 counts of endangering the welfare of a child and 2 counts of obstruction of governmental administration, harassment, and resisting arrest. So, that's happened. And then another school bus driver in Massachusetts was arrested recently for allegedly having a collection of child porn on his home computer. I know that's unfortunately and sickeningly nothing new. Unfortunately, there are bad apples in every bunch, and we're dealing with children, and unfortunately, that's going to sometimes attract just the wrong character. And Tony, amid the driver shortage too, it always gives me pause thinking, we say that we are not just looking for any warm body, but so many school districts out there are just so desperate for drivers. So again, it's just something that we need to discuss and need to be cognizant of, and, wrap our heads around it so we can make sure that as few of these instances happen as possible, because we know they're going to happen. You're dealing with such a large pool of drivers nationwide, but we have to mitigate this.
Yeah, there's a lot of safety issues, Ryan. And we had this discussion before, is when you have a driver shortage, you're willing to potentially compromise on the candidates, right? It's just not, the pool of people is more and more limited, and you're having to take more good with the bad. And this is a tough one the industry's having to swallow. And definitely, it's a troubling situation, and I'm not sure really there's an end in sight. I know we'll probably tackle the old driver shortage at STN Expo this summer.
Absolutely.
And there are many people. I was talking with the folks over at Zoom, and they were saying, hey, we don't have a driver shortage. We're doing it a little different. And I was like, well, maybe you should share the secret sauce there, and we could talk a little bit about what you are doing different. If that's a cultural thing, if that's a recruitment thing, what's that look like? And I think a lot of the audience, the nation out there, is always looking for innovative ways to try to attract good talent, good drivers to be able to serve the kids in the community. So
absolutely,
lots more to come on that.
And speaking of STN Expo Reno, anyways, one of our hosts there, Washoe County School Districts, there in Reno, we wrote an article, I think it was about a year or so ago, about how they were dealing with the driver shortage, and they had this huge shortage, and they were needing to go to basically like this tiered routing where certain students would get the bus one week, then they would be off, and then the next group would get it the next week, and it would go down the line. Well, Scott Lee, the director of transportation, told me last week that they are now 100% staffed. So certainly looking to get Scott, would love to, maybe get the folks at Zoom, others out there that are having success with their drivers. What is that secret sauce? And like you said, Tony, a lot of it comes back down to culture.
Yeah. All right, guys, before we get to our great interviews with our superintendents and Ms. Taylor Ekbatani, we got a quick message from our sponsor. This week's Green Tip is brought to you by Propane, the energy for everyone. Did you know that school buses fueled by propane can help you reduce emissions in your community while saving you money? Propane school buses have a lower average carbon intensity than electric school buses over their lifetime by more than half. And they emit up to 96% less nitrogen oxide than diesel buses. All this from fleets with the lowest total cost of ownership. It's no wonder propane is the most widely used alternative fuel for school buses. Learn more at betterourbuses.com. That's betterourbuses.com.
All right. Good afternoon, nation. So I have 3 special guests on the podcast with us today. And I don't know if we've ever had 3 from the same district, but we can confirm that. It might be a special episode for you guys.
Love it.
Because we're Tomball.
So I have 3 guests from Tomball ISD in Texas, so outside of downtown Houston area. We have Superintendent Dr. Martha Salazar-Zamora, the Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Steven Gutierrez.
Hello there.
And familiar name and face to STN, Sandy Dillman, the Director of Transportation. So welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Go Sandy,
Yeah.
familiar face.
She's very famous in this world, I believe.
Sandy speaks at a lot of our conferences, definitely at the Transporting Students with Disabilities one. So you guys should be familiar with her.
Love that.
And then, Tomball has obviously been in STN recently because Dr. Z, as you guys call her, was one of the AASA Superintendent of the Year finalists. So that's exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
That was awesome.
How did it feel, being named one of the finalists? I know you made some history in your district, the state, and for Hispanic women nationwide. So what does that kind of mean? And what does it mean to be a finalist?
Well, when you consider being the superintendent of the year for the state of Texas and the fact that we have as many districts as we have, almost 13,000 districts. And then you look at, well, actually, that is incorrect. 1,300 districts. 13,000 would be the whole nation, right? Get my math right there. So when you look at our state as a whole, just representing the state is something that I was immensely proud of. The first Latina, as you mentioned, the first Hispanic female to ever, in 100 years, actually, or close to that, to be able to have that title. And actually, I don't think it's been that many years, as many years as the association has had this award. And the reason 100 came up is because I'm the state president for the 100th year, which is this coming year. That's why that was in my head. But then to be named a finalist by a group of individuals in the top four, final four of the nation was really very surreal. And I did find out later, it wasn't something that I really had the information on. I had never really looked at it, but I found out I was the third Texan in the history of this award, which I believe is 37 years that this has been given, and the first female, and of course the first Hispanic to be recognized in this way. And I was very honored. Really did enjoy the other three superintendents. We spent quite a bit of time together through the interview process and then in San Diego. So was able to learn more about the great work that they're doing in their districts and just throughout the nation. It was a huge point of pride and something that I felt like I was not just representing Texas, but certainly my district, Tomball.
Mm-hmm. What was that process like? Because I know it's a long, lengthy process.
It is a long, lengthy process. I am not going to lie to you. I had no idea. It's quite thorough. Of course, your communications team and yourself have to put together additional information above the state that is sent. And there's a vetting process and a lengthy interview process per se. You are notified. And then, of course, we were all, we spent some time in Washington, D.C. We had a face-to-face interview with a panel of approximately 5 judges. We did a video presentation. We were then interviewed another time and then had our NPR there in Washington interview, which is actually on YouTube. That was live. And that was another opportunity for the judges and for others to see all of us. I would say being able to showcase the fact that we could speak for the nation in the event that we were asked by some news source. And so it was a lot jam-packed in a few days, but it was a wonderful process. I don't think I would change any of it or I would certainly encourage people if they have that opportunity to be selected was an honor, but to be able to go through it and now say I've done that is something that it's very memorable, I will say.
Mm-hmm. And you represented your district well. I know we met down in San Diego, California, where they named the winner Dr. Joe Gothard, but you showed up bright in your bright pink suit. I mean, it was fabulous.
She was rocking it.
I mean, it was the year of Barbie Pink. I felt I had to. It spoke to me at the store, and I thought, win or lose, we're winners for being in the top 4, as people say. And I was honored to represent my state and my district.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
So can you kind of talk to the listeners, about Tomball in general, and if Sandy or Dr. Gutierrez, if you guys want to jump in and kind of talk about transportation as well?
Yeah, I'll kick it off and then let my colleagues both share. We certainly have a lot we could talk about when we're talking about our great district. Tomball ISD is a fast growth district. We love to say we're putting the fast in fast growth. When I became superintendent in 2017, we had approximately 9,000 students. We will be over 23, almost 24,000 students before we know it. So do the math. That's quite rapid. We are a fast growth majority minority district with over 80 languages spoken, all the while maintaining not just an A rating academically, but straight A rated school district with a 99% graduation rate. We certainly believe that every child in Tomball ISD should find a place to belong, a passion to pursue, and a love for learning that will serve them well beyond the years they are with us. And we also really now are more focused on not just education, high quality education, but innovative practices through a most recent Tomball Innovation Center purchase and other opportunities to ensure that our students have that success when they leave us and that they truly are college, career, or military ready. I'll let my team add to that.
Yeah, Tomball's a great place. So you heard Dr. Z kind of tout, accolades and things that people will know about Tomball ISD, who become accustomed to this level of high performance, as we say, destination excellence and excellence across all levels. And that's academics on the operational side that I get to support, and awesome teams like Sandy in transportation. So it's understanding, what it means to provide that second mile service, right? Excellent, exceptional customer service to our families. And what does that look like on the transportation side? I know many districts, especially with our driver shortage, just the increasing costs, have scaled back in some ways, like the miles that they cover and students that they're offering transportation services to. I'm proud to say in Tomball ISD, if you would like transportation services in our district, whether you live 2 miles or 2 blocks away from the school, we're going to take care of you. If that's an obstacle for you to engage or be involved in the school, that's a little thing that we can do to go above and beyond and provide that exceptional service to bring our students to and from school, to be that smiling face, oftentimes the first and last people they see in the district. And so proud that as we've continued to grow, as Dr. Z mentioned, fast growth, even in the crunch of fast growth and shrinking budgets, this is a level of service that our community wants and we love to support. And that really then goes down to Sandy and our awesome team about the work that they do, transportation.
Oh, thanks, boss. It's definitely team. It's not just Sandy. It is definitely a collaborative effort with my team. I have a great staff. I have great bus drivers, great attendants that ride on the special needs buses. I kind of want to talk about the Dr. Z and Dr. G, both their leadership roles in for me and the support that I get. I've been in 4 school districts, 1 in California and 3 here in Texas. And while all of the superintendents that I worked with have been amazing, Dr. Z has her own flair it just goes above and beyond. She is adamant that all of her administration knows what's going on. Well, at least what we're supposed to know anyway. And what we're allowed to share with our staff to not only keep them informed, but sometimes, like for my department, to keep them calm so they don't jump to conclusions about things. And we have our board workshops and our board meetings. And then the Wednesday after, we have what we call an ACE meeting, and it's a collaborative administration meeting. And all of the principals, all the district directors, everybody's there. And we all get the same information. So there's not any miscommunication given. Everybody knows the same thing. And that is something that I've, in the last 2.5 years, have just thrived on, because I feel that the communication piece is just so good. My drivers appreciate it. My staff appreciates it. They feel that they get the information firsthand, and they don't feel that anything's being thrown behind the chair. Dr. Z definitely wears her heart on her sleeve, and transparency is very important to us. And with that, I can share with my staff to be that way with the parents on their routes. So that's nice.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to unpack here. So I know I have a couple more questions kind of looking at some of that, but I want to expand on that relationship, because I don't want to say a lot, but transportation oftentimes doesn't have a good relationship with administration, or doesn't feel supported or included. So looking from both sides, how can, transportation make themselves more seen, but also how can administration recognize transportation as well?
That's a great question, Taylor, because I have been in systems where perhaps you don't have the true team concept. And we are so fortunate. Sandy mentioned she's worked with other superintendents in other districts. She is actually the 3rd transportation director since I've become superintendent, and she's promised to be the last. Sandy, remember that promise?
I do remember that.
I might have it in writing somewhere. But really, I will tell you, it's about, I think every one of us would say it's about open, honest, transparent, and timely information. If something has happened, we talk about it. There is not a problem that we can't solve together. If it involves a student, a situation, an angry parent, whatever it might be, we all deal with the crazy weather and just life, right? Things that happen. that may affect what is happening on the bus, off the bus, around the bus, at the bus stop, as students are dropped off. And what I love about Sandy and the team, and this is Dr. Gutierrez's expectation, he and I have worked in a prior district. We've aligned our leadership, from years back. So I know the way he leads his department. And I love that all of us know at the end of the day, it is about student safety. It is about ensuring that our drivers are the best individuals, which I believe we have, that will make sure that that experience from the minute they enter that bus or are waiting at the bus stop to the minute they're taken back at the end of the day, that they have a good experience. And I love that they celebrate holidays and they decorate their buses and they truly make that a classroom of their own per se, where wonderful things occur, and it is a joyous experience. And I can't always say I've been in districts or systems where that is the case. If something happens, and it has, and it will, that is part of life. We will review it. We will discuss it. We will learn from it. There is nothing that we can't solve together. They know that even if somebody has made a mistake, there is something that can be learned from that. Some of my greatest, I think, learning lessons have come from mistakes that perhaps I have made. And so we celebrate their successes and we hold hands together in many ways. She mentioned today they had a celebratory moment with food. There's always a lot of food in our district, maybe just in our profession. I don't know. But food makes people happy. We come together as a family to eat. And so this is our work family. We do the same thing. I am very fortunate to work with the two people on this podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Z. And I will say, districts take the flavor of their superintendent, right? Like everything from the culture and how they go about business and the expectations that they set forward that kind of trickle all the way throughout the culture. And so I say Dr. Z sets the tone right from the beginning of every school year. When we do our district-wide convocation, it's every single person in the district. We're at one place celebrating the start of a new year. Actually, Sandy and her transportation team play a critical role because we bus all of the teachers there from their campus to a central location. And it's a celebration of all things Tomball, all the great work that we've done, all the work that we're going to be doing, and really setting the tone. Dr. Z sets the tone with every single staff member, regardless of title, position, pay, who are you. We're all on an equal playing field there as members of Team Tomball. And so it starts there. At convocation to know, hey, we're all important and you're all going to celebrate the good and hear about what's awesome, what's coming next. And you're all valuable. You're all appreciated. I think that's the beauty of Team Tomball. And really that starts at the top with Dr. Z. Let me add on to that because you said how, that relationship piece, because this part is important because, relationships are a two-way street when you talk about making transportation departments being seen. So we kind of start with the beginning of the year. We're all on the same team, but unless it's full service, it's just lip service, right? And so there are a lot of times when, it's not being afraid to engage because sometimes whether you're a professional, you're in a suit, you think you walk into the transportation department or the lounge that, hey, am I going to intimidate someone or am I going to be intimidated to go up to them because I don't know about all the things transportation and so I think the opportunity to engage, and Dr. Z mentioned great times around food. And so this really is Sandy and her team creating the environment that, hey, we're going to have a Thanksgiving luncheon or we're going to celebrate this milestone or this celebration, inviting Dr. Z and I and other members of the team to engage so that when transportation folks, whether it be the dispatchers, the mechanics, or the drivers, when they see us, they don't think, oh my God, Dr. Z's here, Dr. G's here, something's wrong. It's just like, oh, hey, Dr. Z, it's like, it's family, right? And so you have that familiarity. And so I think I mentioned this, or I have a great picture of Dr. Z's. It was a recognition, I think, at the beginning of the school year. We may have been serving Chick-fil-A chicken biscuits, like chicken minis. Who can't be happy with breakfast, Chick-fil-A? But Dr. Z caught a picture of her engaging with a bus driver. He must have been telling a joke because he doubles over laughing and she's laughing, and it's an awesome picture. And I'm like, that's it right there, because if she doesn't come and make the space where, hey, I'm serving you, or we're having breaking bread together, if they don't feel comfortable coming up and cracking a joke with the superintendent, then you miss an opportunity to create that sense of community. And so it kind of goes both ways. You have a leader that sets that tone and expectation that we're all part of the team. And then you have folks willing to take her up on that and being real when you show up to engage. So kind of a long answer there for you, but thank you.
Well, and for me, it's making myself available, upfront, transparency, and like Dr. Z said, honesty. I don't think twice about picking up a phone and calling a parent and telling a parent exactly what happened. We don't try to hide anything. Not that I've never not tried to hide things, but I definitely have learned from mistakes. You have to be honest with parents. And my team they're my family. And I have felt that way everywhere I've worked. And they say, well, we work for you. And I say, we don't work for me. We work together. We work with each other, not for somebody. And I keep Dr. Z and Dr. G and their staff informed when things happen. So they're not, if the parent calls them, they're not shocked. They know exactly what's going on. So I try to keep them in the loop of everything. So it's just an honesty and transparency. And it's not that you're telling too much or being a tattletale on your employees. It's that they need to know because they answer to the stakeholders. And most of the time, the phone calls will come to them before they come to me. And they put them back on me, but I don't want them to get that phone call and not be aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Taylor, great conversation so far. Want to get a quick message in from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. This message is brought to you by First Student, the largest provider of student transportation in North America. Transforming the school bus into an extension of the classroom, First Student's program First Serves redefines the student experience and behavior by seamlessly implementing proven classroom interventions on the bus. This innovative program ensures a cohesive support system tailored to each student's needs with advanced driver training and research-based interventions. First Serves paves the way for a safer, more supportive journey for every student. Visit firststudentinc.com/firstserves to learn more today. That's firststudentinc.com/firstserves.
And I know one of the biggest things when I was talking to you guys for the article was kind of like this theme that I gathered of like no student, no department left behind. And you kind of just explained, the department piece and how you involve all the departments and your communications and all that. But one of the biggest things that we talked about was students and how every student has access to the school bus. And I believe that was something, Dr. Z, that you really pushed for. So what was that like, making that switch? Why was that important?
Well, it's actually historical information. So the district has had a lot of pride in the fact that we have done this prior to any of the three of us being there. However, as Dr. Gutierrez alluded to, that has become more challenging with budget crunches, with deficit budgets, with just the fiscal responsibility and financial challenges that we're all being faced with. That is something, though, that we think is a service to our community, whether it's a really cold day, a really hot day, and we have all the extremes, a super rainy day. We don't really have snow, but let's say on the off chance that happens, it has happened. Not with frequency, but just on extreme weather days, we really feel as a district, at least at this point, for the time that we can, that is something that we have done and work hard to continue doing. So any single child in the district is afforded the opportunity to ride the bus regardless of proximity. And that not many districts can say in this day and age. And we're super proud of that.
Super proud to offer that, especially when you consider the state only reimburses a fraction of that, right? So we are providing this service again, in tight budget crunches. And so, again, kudos to the leadership, to Dr. Z, the school board, for really allowing us to provide this service to all families.
Yeah, when I got here and they told me what we did, I was like, we do what? Are you sure? Are you sure? And then I actually spoke at a conference and shared that information, and people were just floored because they're like, how do you do that? It's like, we just do it because it's what the community is, part of our family, I guess. So it's, you take care of your family. Mm-hmm. So we're taking care of the kids in our district because they are part of our family. Their parents, we have a very good relationship with the parents in our district. They are involved. They've been active at board meetings, supportive of board meetings. I'm in my 38th year. And I started when I was 4.
Of course you did. I was right there with you.
And I don't remember being at a school board meeting, hearing parents come and thanking the school board, not just for a decision that they made, but for doing what they do. Because being a school board member sometimes is it's unthankful. Nobody thanks somebody for that. They thank them for doing it. They don't get paid for it. It's something they do, and it was genuine. It was very genuine. So that was nice to see.
Mm-hmm. So what's the secret sauce, Sandy? Because you're coming from, California, which barely offers general ed transportation. And now you're coming to this district, which is anyone and everyone can get on the school bus. So how are you navigating that with, budget shortages, school bus driver shortages?
It's a collaborative effort between my routing department, my route supervisors, and me and my assistant director. We just make it work, and our routing system that we use, it makes it easier for the routing department to make efficient routes that you can go by and pick up kids. And with the system we have, we know exactly how many students are on board at any given time. I am very proud to tell you that we transport almost 13,000 students a day of our almost 23,000 students in our district. In previous districts I've been at, up in North Dallas area, I was at a district that had 55,000 students in their ADA, and we only transported about 6,000 of them. So this is a lot. 16-17% is pretty average, and we're up right at about 50%, 55%, which is amazing. And it is just doing stuff for the community like this. At first, I was like, I just can't believe we're doing this, and this is the first thing I need to change. And it is like the furthest thing from my mind to change, because you're assisting the community, and you see how grateful these parents are that they have the service. Now, granted, some of the parents don't use the service every day because they live close enough to the schools. We have beautiful weather here on, some days, not every day. But we get full, our buses are full, and routing everybody, knowing that everybody has a ride, we know that even on the rainy days and the most severe weather days, how many kids are going to be on the bus, and we have room for them.
Yeah, that's great. So looking for the future, as we wrap this up, what's kind of, any goals or any sort of initiatives you guys are looking at, either for Tomball or for transportation?
So we love to say at Tomball ISD, we're not just a district, but a destination. Not just a destination, but destination excellence. So when we look at the future, whatever we do, I think we'll have that brand of excellence to it. I know that Dr. Gutierrez and Sandy are looking at other ideas, right? And I'll let them talk about different types of buses that others are looking at, and opportunities to improve that department. But overall, as a district, I will tell you, we will continue to do what we have done well, and that is educate students at very high levels. As they continue to come, we will continue to ensure that they receive a high quality education, regardless of what time of the year they come to us or when they leave. Sometimes they come in and then they leave. If they're even with us for a season, it will be a season that they will surely remember, and it will have an impactful point in their lives.
That's awesome. In order to, for students to be able to have access to that high quality teaching and learning that our parents know that what we're known for and come to expect. We definitely have to have robust systems like transportation to remove those obstacles for our families that need the service, or on any given day, depending on the weather, that they can maximize that. And so definitely working together towards as we continue to grow. So Dr. Z mentioned putting the fast growth, keeping everything that Sandy mentioned about juggling all of the almost 55% ridership while opening up 4 or 5 new schools in the next 3 years. So we have a new elementary campus coming on, intermediate, and then another intermediate campus and a third comprehensive high school. So we are definitely, bringing students in. This is definitely a hot spot for families who want a great education. It's no longer a secret anymore. What's the secret sauce in Tomball ISD? So, for us to maintain that high level of service that parents expect with the growth. We are about to embark on a strategic direction. I think part of the success comes from having great leadership like Dr. Z setting forward a vision. And that vision is not just, hey, it would be great to try these things, but putting a plan in place. And so this is my 6th year in the district, and this is the second strategic direction that I've been a part of. I know Dr. Z before that, in record-breaking time, completed a previous strategic direction. Right. But again, when you have a plan and a blueprint in front of you, it's like, how do we start to innovate? I think the title, the theme, Dr. Z.
Exceeding Excellence.
Exceeding Excellence 2030.
2030. So it'll be our 3rd district strategic plan. And that's a great point because, as Dr. Gutierrez knows, everything we do is driven by our strategic plan, which is funded by our board.
So that part's awesome. So definitely we're going to talk about some ideas to take us into 2030 and beyond in all levels of the district. And so kind of tee that up for Sandy, because I know we've been exploring, dipping our toes in what would it look like to potentially try some alternate methods, fuel methods or some different things. So we're exploring and just excited to, be part of Team Tomball and serving our students with transportation.
Yeah, I'm excited to explore different things for the students and our community and for all the stakeholders in our district. Alternative fuel, whether it's propane, electric, to move into to do some green. We're not a priority district, so we don't qualify for any of the grant funding. So that makes it a little bit rough with everything that we're doing with our budget now. But it's nice to be able to go out and look and still be part of that and let the community see that we are trying.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. And I'm super excited to have had you 3 on. Like I said, I think it was a special, one of a kind episode, 3 people from the same district. So
love it.
We love it.
Thank you guys so much. And I really appreciate you jumping on here, and congratulations again to Tomball and to Dr. Z.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And thank you for having the interest in our amazing transportation department and the great work that they continue to do. We appreciate you also as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
A special thanks to Ryan and Taylor and our special guests, Dr. Z, Stephen, and Sandy from Tomball down in Texas. Also, guys, special thanks to our sponsors, TransFinder, First Student, and the Propane Education Research Council, also known as PERC. Guys, visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on the school transportation industry. Don't forget to also sign up for STN Expo this summer. We have West out in Reno in July, as well as STN Expo East in Indianapolis in late May, early June. Go to stnexpo.com for all the latest information. You guys can lock in some savings as well, early bird and super early bird savings. Don't forget, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to Pods Nation. We appreciate you. Keep listening every week. We love you.